Alright, now let's move on to illustration number 19. On 1st January 2021, HT subscribes to convertible preference shares of RT. Again, RT over here is the issuer, HT is the holder. The preference shares are convertible in the ratio of 1:1. The terms of the instrument entitle HT Limited to proportionately more equity shares of RT Limited in case a stock split or bonus issue happens. Examine whether the financial instrument will be classified as equity. So what the question is stating is, let us say again the number of shares are 10,000. The question is saying that the conversion ratio is actually fixed at 1:1, which means on the conversion date, we are going to issue 10,000 equity shares for 10,000 preference shares. All right, so RT Limited has an obligation to deliver 10,000 equity shares for 10,000 preference shares. Now, what the terms of instrument actually state is, if there is a bonus issue on the normal equity shares, hypothetically, let us assume that the number of normal equity shares that RT has are 90,000. It has issued 10,000 preference shares, and let us say it has 90,000 equity shares. All right, now if you think of it, if there was no bonus issue, this 10,000 preference shares would have gotten converted into 10,000 equity shares on the conversion date. And after conversion, the total number of equity shares would have been 1 lakh equity shares. The total number of equity shares would have been 90,000 plus 10,000, which is equal to 1 lakh equity shares. So HT Limited, if you think of it, HT Limited is basically going to have a 10% voting power. It's going to have a 10% ownership in RT Limited after conversion. All right, before conversion, there were 90,000 equity shares. Now it is going to get converted at 10,000 equity shares are going to get added as a result of conversion, and HT Limited was going to have an ownership of 10%. Now, let us say before conversion, after the issuance of these preference shares, but before the conversion, RT Limited is actually issuing a bonus shares. It's issuing bonus shares of 1:1. Assume that it is issuing bonus shares of 1:1. All right, so there are now 90,000 equity shares. There will be additional 90,000 equity shares, and therefore the total number of equity shares after bonus, this 90,000 is bonus. All right, I've gone for a 1:1 bonus issue. So for every one share, I'm going to issue one bonus share. So 1,80,000 equity shares are going to be present. Now, if after the conversion of preference shares, I will be converting 10,000 preference shares into 10,000 equity shares. So the total number of equity shares will become 1,90,000. All right, these are 10,000 on conversion. Now, if you think of it from HT Limited's point of view, HT Limited point of view, at the time of subscribing to the preference shares, when the preference shares it was subscribing to, what it thought was it would have 10% ownership. HT Limited would have thought that it would have 10% ownership after the conversion. But if you now see what we RT Limited did is they actually issued bonus shares, and HT Limited's percentage of ownership has now become 10,000 divided by 1,90,000, which will be slightly probably above 5%. It's going to be around approximately 5%. All right. HT Limited thought that it will actually have 10% ownership, but as a result of the bonus issue, the ownership is actually deteriorating down to 5%. Now, this can actually happen in a lot of cases. So, what the terms of the instrument is actually stating is, if there is a bonus or a stock split on the normal equity shares, then the conversion ratio will also change. For example, if there is a bonus issue of 1:1, then the conversion ratio will change from 1:1 to 2:1. All right. If there is a bonus issue or a stock split on the normal equity shares, then the terms of these convertible preference shares state that the conversion ratio of 1:1 no longer will apply. We will convert them at the rate of 2:1. All right. So what does that mean? If they're getting converted at the rate of 2:1, it means that RT Limited will issue two equity shares for every one preference share. All right, so it will issue two equity shares for every one preference shares. So the number of preference shares that will get added will not be 10,000. HT will be receiving 20,000, and the total number of equity shares will be 2 lakhs, which means HT Limited's ownership is going to be 20,000 divided by 2 lakhs, which is going to be equal to 10 percentage. All right. So what this has done is, what I've done is, in the terms of instrument, I have said that if there is any bonus issue, if there is a bonus issue of 1 is to 1, then the conversion ratio for these preference shares will no longer be 1 is to 1. They will be changed to 2 is to 1. All right. If there is no bonus issue, then the conversion ratio is 1 is to 1. If there is a bonus issue, then the conversion ratio will actually change from 1 is to 1 to 2 is to 1. All right. Or if there is a stock split also, then the preference shares conversion ratio will not be 1 is to 1, but will be 2 is to 1. The question is, now over here, the conversion ratio is fluctuating. All right. The conversion ratio is actually fluctuating. If there is no bonus issue, then the conversion ratio is 1 is to 1. If there's a bonus issue, then the conversion ratio becomes 2 is to 1. All right. So in that case, if you think of it, RT Limited has an obligation to deliver either 10,000 equity shares or 20,000 equity shares. Remember, on 1st of January 2021, we're still standing on the date of issuance. On the date of conversion, I do not know whether a bonus issue would have happened or would not have happened. All right. So if I think of it today, RT Limited, which is the issuer, may have an obligation to deliver either 10,000 equity shares, or it may have an obligation to deliver 20,000 equity shares. All right. So is this an obligation to deliver a fixed number of equity shares or variable number of equity shares? Remember, to determine, we have to see whether the issuer has an obligation to deliver a fixed or a variable number of equity shares. Over here, the conversion ratio is changing, which means you might actually think that RT Limited has an obligation to deliver a variable number of equity shares. All right, it might give you a feeling that RT Limited may since either deliver 10,000 or it may either deliver 20,000, depending on whether bonus happens or does not happen, and therefore RT Limited has an obligation to deliver variable number of equity shares. This might be your thought process, but that is actually incorrect. All right. The reason why the conversion ratio is changing over here is basically because there is a bonus issue or stock split which is distorting the ownership percentages completely, and the change in owner conversion ratio is solely to protect the rights of the bondholders, to protect the rights of the preference shareholders. All right, the conversion ratios change is solely to protect the change in to protect the interests of the convertible preference shareholders, and not to actually give them any other benefit or loss. And hence we are actually going to regard this as a fixed conversion ratio only. We're going to consider this as a fixed conversion ratio, and hence this will be regarded as an obligation to deliver a fixed number of equity shares only, and hence the convertible preference shares will be classified as equity right from day one. On 1st Jan 2021, although RT Limited may issue either 10,000 or 20,000 equity shares, we will still classify this as an obligation to deliver fixed number of equity shares, and hence will be classified as an equity instrument only. All right. So the variability in conversion ratio is only to protect the rights of the holder of the convertible instrument vis-a-vis the other equity shareholders. All right. We are trying to ensure that the percentage ownership is not distorted over here. All right. As a result of bonus issue, because there is the percentage ownerships get distorted without any inflow of cash. All right. There's no inflow of cash, but the percentage ownership is distorted. To ensure that it does not happen, what we are doing is we are ensuring that the conversion ratio changes from 1 is to 1 to 2 is to 1, and hence this change in conversion ratio will still be regarded as meeting the fixed ratio test. All right, and hence will be classified as equity. With that, we are done with illustration number 19.